I am your host, Dr. Terry Daniels, and I have as our guest, so excited. I've known this young lady for many years, but watching her journey and watching her growth has just been amazing. But now we get to hear from her. So I have as our guest, Miss Anetha Dunn Sanford. She is the CEO of Home Builders Association of Kentucky. She works out of the Lexington area, Frankfurt area. So she's all over the state, you all. So she's an amazing young lady. So Anetha, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Rhythm of Business podcast. Just to get us started, why don't you just share a little bit about who you are and what you do as CEO of Home Builders Association of Kentucky?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So I grew up in Bowling Green, ended up at Western. My degree was in corporate and organizational communications.
Okay.
Worked for a realtor association. So association management is basically my background.
Wow.
And then came over to work for the Home Builders Association. Government affairs is what I really do. So I do lobbying here in Frankfurt on behalf of the home builders and suppliers, those who supply the industry. And I absolutely really enjoy government affairs,
Right.
government relations. And so my predecessor, I worked for him for about 5 years, and then he decided to retire, and I put my name in. They interviewed a slate of people and offered me the position. So it's been almost 5 years since I've been the actual CEO of the association.
Well, let me ask you this. Here's my question, and I think I want to know, maybe everyone else wants to know. How did you go from Bowling Green, Kentucky to this level of CEO role? And tell me about this leadership journey that you've taken, because many people aspire to, reach higher levels in their leadership. How did you make that journey?
I'll be honest, of course, I did not foresee that for me.
Okay,
The good Lord saw that for me. And
okay,
I will tell you, when I was working for the realtor organization, they had quite a bit of turnover in their CEO position, and they had hired a woman there. And I remember I specifically had said this prayer: Lord, I hope this is somebody that I'm allowed to flourish under.
okay.
Like that was important to me. And she was the one that just saw things in me that I didn't
Oh,
see in
wow.
myself. She was the one that was like, you're just doing this education. I think I can give you a little bit more. I think you can handle the professional development side of what we do for
Mm.
our realtors. And then she was like, oh, you're showing an interest in the politics. That was when President Barack Obama was campaigning. So I was really interested, paying attention. First African American president. And that was when she said, have you ever thought about government affairs? And I was like, no. And she was like, I think you should try it. She was like, I know you don't know, everything about lobbying, but you know our members and you know the issues. And I think you could do it, and I think you could do it well. And so that was my introduction. And most individuals who are in association management, who are CEOs, in some form have a government affairs background. It's
Okay.
really important to have that background when you're running an association.
Yeah, so if you think about your journey and someone saw something in you, as you hear that, how do you get this belief in yourself, even though you may not know that territory? How do you get a belief in yourself to say, I can lead too? How did you get that?
I think it was just surrounding myself with the right people. And she also did something for me where she would include me in a lot of
Oh,
conversations. She would include me in processes. And even my former CEO did the same thing. They would include me in certain things and I'm not realizing that they are helping prepare me.
wow.
Um, and actually, and I do the same for my staff here. I
Wow.
do. I challenge them. I tell them, when I'm asking them to do something new, that it's great for their professional development. if there is something that has happened with me that maybe went well or not so well,
Yeah.
I always say to them, this is a lesson.
Yeah.
So I have to give them a lot of credit in
Wow.
including me in a process and watching the work that they did.
As I'm having this conversation with you, Anetha, I'm just like blown away at this journey that you've taken and to get to the position that you're in. I know zero about governmental affairs, so as you're talking, it's Greek language to me because but it's amazing to hear you speak so confidently about that. Can you tell us a little bit about in leadership? Some people have these misconceptions about being at the top or being in a leadership role. What do you think are some of the misconceptions about being a leader?
I would say for me, the number one misconception is everyone is a born leader, that people who lead are born leaders,
Wow.
because that's not my journey. I mean, and I say this all the time. And I said this to a group of young women I was talking to. I had to grow into it.
Okay.
It didn't hit me immediately. In the beginning, there were certain things that I was not as confident and competent about. But as you go through some ups and some downs, you do become more confident.
Wow.
But I do have counterparts that I know they jumped right into it. And I mean, I mean, and that just wasn't me. And I was okay with that. I'm happy with growing into it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. I think what you shared is so important that we can grow into spaces. Before we started the podcast, you and I were talking about weekends and maybe had some relaxing weekend and stuff. How does Anetha and how do leaders find that balance, find that rhythm between family and being in a leadership role? How do you find that balance and that rhythm?
I think that's still something I'm working on.
Okay.
Uh, but it's tough. I will say having a support system is key, right?
Hmm.
My husband, he's an administrator in the school system. We both have pretty demanding jobs, but our family is priority. And
Hmm.
so we work to find that balance. I'll give you just an example. This weekend, some of my friends were in town from Bowling Green, and
Hmm.
you know, I was definitely going to make time for them. It was worth it. And Eric's like, "Go ahead, I've got the girls. Don't worry about it." So, I think time management, organizing, making sure that you don't do too much, and that it's okay to say no.
Yeah, yeah.
That is something I have gotten really good at over time.
Man, no.
Saying no.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because sometimes when you do too much, you just get overwhelmed and you want to be helpful. I want to be helpful. I enjoy serving on boards. I do other things on top of, my job, but sometimes, yeah, it's okay to say no just for your own rhythm
yeah,
and
yeah.
flow.
So you're right, and I think that's the key is that there's these ebbs and flows, and things happen. Friends come in town, those things happen. How do I find that rhythm, find that balance? Because everything has to keep happening.
Hmm.
I don't get a chance to set something to the side and act as though it's not there. It's still there. So
Hmm.
how do I find rhythm with it? That is key. And in leadership roles, we don't have the option. Your family's demanding, your team's demanding, your work's demanding, your relaxation is demanding, everything is demanding. So how do I find that rhythm? How do you see? I'm looking at you and I'm listening to you, and I see you have this passion, this desire for what you do. You're continuing to grow and want to grow.
Hmm.
How does a leader instill this type of passion in people who are now on the team? Someone did it for you. How do you instill it in others?
I think it was, like I had mentioned is, just telling them you
Hmm.
can. Even with, I allow flexibility because that was allowed for me. And also being allowed flexibility also made me want it to work for that person harder.
Wow.
Um, and so I feel like I've instilled the same in the staff that I have here. I just think this the leading by example, but leading by example is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It is a real thing. And so that is what I hope and I try to provide. And I'll give you an example because when I have my board meetings, of course, I do a CEO update. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make the lead staff in the areas give an update. I'm gonna have them come in and give their reports. And that was not something they were used to doing.
Yeah.
I felt it would give them some ownership
Yeah.
too. I thought it was good for them to be in front of the board, give them some responsibility, professional development, so that hopefully at one point they will be in a position like mine. I hope that's the goal for them.
You're not stopping. I can tell you're not stopping. There's a wheel turning for excellence, and I can see it, I can hear it. And to bring them in like that, to say, how can I stretch them? That is stretching them, but it's also stretching you to have to allow them to do that, right? So,
And that's a little tough. I mean, I will say when I first took this position and then I had to hire my replacement, letting go was the hardest thing because I enjoyed government affairs so much. It's still a big part of my job, but it's at a different level.
okay,
I'm not at the in that Capitol Annex every day. The my replacement is does that. She monitors more, but that was really tough for me
wow.
was to let that go, and really handle all of the day-to-day operations of the organization just because, and I just have a passion about government relations and politics in general. So, but letting go when I took this position was pretty tough.
Well, what you just said sparked another thought question, and this is not planned for, so I hope it don't throw me off and throw you off. But when you said you had to let go, I hear a lot of leaders talking about trying to get themselves out of the weeds of their day to day so they can lead at a higher level. And it sounds like you did that pretty, with some challenge, but you made that switch. How do you make that switch to let your leaders lead and you stay in the space that you're supposed to? How did you make that switch to
I
really?
think I just realized I had to. You go to organization and time management, and you just realize I can't do all of this. There are certain things that I have to let go in order for me to do better and in order for this organization to grow, because that's what it's about. What is best for this association?
That's worth the interview right there. I'm telling you, Anita, that's worth the interview. Is that somehow you got to look at it as the organization's needs versus our individual needs. And
Hmm.
I can be really great over here, but I don't need to be great over here because I've hired someone else to do that.
Right.
The
Hmm.
organization needs me to do this while they do that, and that's a hard challenge for a lot of leaders.
One of the first things I did when I took this position was hire a contract lobbyist. We had not had a contract lobbyist. And that was really tough for my leadership because they like someone who is the consistent face. I will always be the consistent
Yeah.
face. But I had to explain to them that I was looking at hiring this contract lobbyist as an enhancement, not a replacement, but as an enhancement, because I knew that would help also take us to another level.
Yeah, yeah.
But that I did have to do quite a bit of explaining to the board for them to get on board with what my goal was here. And it's by far one of the best decisions I've ever made in
Yeah.
this position.
So when you think about when you say another level, where's growth go from here? And what are the challenges between here and there?
I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like I'm just right at that space where I was a very driven person. This is the
Mhm.
best way I know how to explain
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
I was a very driven person, but now I'm a visionary. I never saw that in myself.
Never saw yourself as a visionary.
I was driven. I was a hard worker. I always say I got to where I was because I would come to work every day. I would do my job. I'd do a little bit more than that if needed. I was a hard worker because that was instilled in me as Leisha and William Carr,
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a hard worker. And so that's what drove me. But the visionary part, I never saw in myself, but I see it in that's the level I'm ready for.
Wow, I love that language. That's the language right there. That I've been coaching with some clients, and that's the language that gets us to that next gear. Is
Mhm.
once you get vision as part of your build, it changes the whole game. It changes the whole game, and vision is the key.
But I still think it's good to have that help and guidance and I feel like I'll always need or want that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, there's no doubt in my mind, Anetha, that you have far surpassed goals. I'm sure you have for yourself and others that are around you, and that's not a surprise to me. I'm just gonna say to the audience listening, I know this young lady from a long way back,
Way back.
and driven is the key word. I love that word. So as we wrap this up, as you think about your leadership and you go back to uh, before you got into this high level role, or even as you was coming out of college, what do you say to that person? I know you said you talked to some young ladies before. What do you
Mhm.
say to that individual that aspires to go into a leadership role, go into a senior role of an organization? What do you say to that person, and how do you guide them into that direction?
I think it's having the confidence and knowing that you can do it. And then what I had mentioned before is being committed to doing it. There will be some things you like to do,
Mhm.
some things you don't like to do, but that's all part of the leadership process.
Yes.
And that's why, I know I keep saying grow into it, but that just means so much. And then, we talked about with family and
Mhm.
just learning how to balance those. And this may tickle you a little bit. Mom thinks it's crazy that I don't go in and pick out my own produce. I mean, I do Costco orders, I do Kroger orders,
Yeah,
but that's how I find balance to be able to have time with my family, with my job. I mean, they're just our priority. I think I've mentioned we have an added layer because we have a daughter with a very rare syndrome
yeah,
called Rett syndrome. So we are her advocates on a day-to-day basis. They're all a joy. But you can find that.
yeah,
And even if, like I said, it's making Costco or
mhm,
Kroger online ordering your best friend. But
yeah,
I would tell the young ladies that you are capable, you are able, and that I am here. And I'm sure there are other women here that are willing to be supportive and help.
absolutely. Well, I think about what you said, and that was so awesome in that the Costco and orders, because again, to find rhythm, life is dynamic and life is ever changing. Guess what? In my early years, we didn't have the opportunity to order Costco, or we had to go in and pick out our own produce, right? That's what we did. But as we see change happen, how do we get dynamic? How do we get rhythmic with change and use what we can to make life as effective as we can?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the rhythm of life. It doesn't change. Guess what? You can get electric cars now. Guess what? I don't have to worry about as much gas if I get an electric car, right? Life is dynamic and it's very rhythmic. And if we don't learn how to get with the rhythm of it, we're going to miss out on making ourselves as effective. So, sounds to
Mm-hmm.
me like what I'm hearing you say is that make sure you just keep your eyes open to the dynamics of rhythm and change, use what you can, because that's what's going to allow you to be as effective as you can. And
Hmm.
that's what you've done. That is so cool. That is so cool. I feel like I'm a better person because now I've heard you tell me that. Now I know it's okay to use Costco. I know.
It is. It is. And I love doing my Costco orders, but yes.
Yeah. Well, Anetha, thank you so much for just taking time to share with us your journey as a leader. What you've accomplished is amazing. It's such a blessing to see what you've accomplished and who you are from those early days. But it's such a blessing to see what you're doing. And I guess what I am confident you're gonna do greater. But not only are you gonna do greater, you're gonna pour into more people
Mm-hmm.
that they can do greater. And that's what excites me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for taking time. Any last words?
No, thank you for having me. And you're right, pouring into people, being supportive of people. And like I had said before, my prayer when they called and offered me the position was, I want people to see God in me. That was
That's
that
it.
was the most important.
Well, I'm just telling you, to this audience, you have been able to hear Miss Anetha Dunn Sanford. She is the CEO of Home Builders Association of Kentucky. And if you want to learn more, you can go to their website, and I'm sure she'll find a way for you to connect with her to learn more. So thank you so much, Anetha. And we hope to the audience you come back and listen to another Rhythm of Business podcast with your host, Dr. Terry Daniels. Have yourself a great rest of your day.